General Motors and Formula One have said yes to joining the racing sport as the 11th team that would race their first season with one of the current engine makers, but what is even more cool is that they will give 2 seats for drivers who have been hiding in the shadows in the past couple of months while they would mainly focus on the American racing talents like Herter and Ward. It's been reported that the team wants to sign an old experienced driver to help them learn the right way. And Ricciardo, because he's super popular in the USA, is on the list of possible drivers for Cadillac. Can we see the Australian guy making a comeback, and if so, will it be in a way where he can actually win races what has been cooking for so long? Has finally happened. We will have an 11th team, and while it's happening in weird ways, Cadillac and General Motors are joining without the official presence of Andretti. The announcement that Mario Andretti, the former Formula One champion, will be the boss of Cadillac's F1 operations shows that they've probably worked on a deal that makes money for both Formula One and General Motors as well during the Las Vegas race. Wolff was very clear that if the new team is an engine maker, then it changes the whole picture and point of view from the racing organization side. And when talking about it more, the Austrian guy said, "We have a job, a legal job as directors to show the viewpoint that is best for our company and our workers, and we've done that." So in the past, I think if a team can add to the championship, especially if GM decides to come in as a team owner, that is a different story. As long as it's creative, that means we're making the sport more popular, we're making more money from the sport, then no team will be against it. So I am putting my hope in there, and it has been proven officially by Formula One with a statement that General Motors have done way more than enough during the year and have reached goals that are good enough to see them being the 11th team on the racing track. Of course, all of this might put Andretti in a bad spot because he did quit as the CEO of Andretti Global, but him being made the director of Cadillac shows that none of this would have been possible without him. When talking about the 11th team on the racing track, F1 said in an official statement, Formula One has kept talking with General Motors and its partners at WG Global about whether joining would work following the business check and decision made by Formula One in January 2024. During this year, they have reached working goals and made clear their promise to brand the 11th team with GM and Cadillac, and that GM will join as an engine supplier at a later time. The last sentence is what makes the biggest argument for Cadillac to join the sport, as it's always good for business for the sport to have more engine makers because the competition gets better, and there is no question that teams would have to be careful about the power change that Cadillac is likely to bring. Mark Roos, the president of GM, has spoken really well of General Motors joining the sport, saying it's an honor for General Motors and Cadillac to join the world's best racing series, and we're committed to competing with passion and honesty to make the sport better for race fans around the world. Cadillac themselves said that Mario Andretti will be chosen as the director of their operations because, if we've been quite honest, had it not been for his son Michael, none of this would have happened in the first place. But the internal changes in Liberty Media and the removal of Greg Maffei, the former CEO, as well as the latest election results, have gone on to make the way for Michael to be now present in the sport, although under different terms that maybe he would have wanted. When talking about it, Mario said, "My first love was Formula One, and now, 70 years later, the F1 paddock is still my happy place to still be involved. At this stage of my life, I have to pinch myself to make sure I'm not dreaming. We are yet to see what job his son Michael has in the team, but it's likely that it will be something more behind the scenes, or maybe even a team boss, given the fact that he's been the one pushing to make an entrance in the sport, as Andretti has already used the air department of Toyota that is located in Cologne, Germany, for the 2026 rules. There have been reports that the car frame of 26 has already gone through the testing phase, and all of this leads us to a very interesting time in which we're going to see 22 drivers on the racing track after quite a long break. And of course, the next question that needs to be talked about is the drivers pairing. Probably the most fun fact about having an 11th team on the racing track is that 2 more seats are going to be opening up, and given the fact that we have plenty of drivers who would be eager to do anything to drive in this sport, it's going to be interesting to see whether someone will make a comeback or Cadillac will choose to go in their own separate way. with two new drivers, but so far early reports are saying that Ricciardo is the backup choice who should expect a call from Cadillac. Because even though he's not American, he's the type of driver that you definitely love to have on your team, especially if you're from the USA. The popularity of this Australian guy is unmatched in the States, and we know that Red Bull wanted to use him as a representative on the North American continent due to that factor. Now imagine what influence he would have as a starter on the All-American team. It's safe to say that Ricciardo's exit from the sport was one of the most painful ones that he could have gone through, even though he knew the situation was coming. However, the entrance of General Motors is now changing things to a big extent. 2 more seats are opening on the racing track, and while the team will be focusing on promoting American talent such as Colton Herter, they will be putting their eye on Daniel Ricciardo as well due to his knowledge as an experienced driver in the sport, and he knew Formula One team would do anything to have Ricciardo on their side because you're just entering the sport, and obviously the greatest influence would be made by Daniel, who said that he can never say no to this sport, and while he might try other racing categories, the focus will always remain on Formula One. However, it is worth noting that Ricciardo's recent performance wasn't necessarily one with which he could show off, and that is something that brings a bit of worry when it comes to Cadillac's time. Of course, they are starting from zero, and that means they're not really willing to risk it all with 2 new drivers who would definitely be more likely to crash and unable to give the feedback needed to develop the car in the right direction. Nevertheless, it's likely that Andretti, who has been confirmed to be the director of Cadillac's operations when it comes to Formula One, will likely focus on the pattern that was promoted by Audi. As well, 1 experienced driver and 1 young driver who will boost the interest from the American side. There are, of course, other experienced drivers like Bottas who are also available to be signed, and you could even include Vettel and bringing the full-time world champion back from retirement, but none of them have the popularity that Ricciardo does in the USA. At the end of the day, we're talking about a team who will draw American money sponsorships and viewership, so they have to look at what's best for those factors as well. Apart from Ricciardo, there are 2 other drivers who are more or less guaranteed the spot if the team doesn't get to sign the Australian guy from 2026 onwards. They are Colton Herter and Pato Ward. We know how highly Andretti has spoken about Herter when the talks about entering the sport as an 11th team heated up, and the fact that they've worked together in the IndyCar 500 is also a huge sign about the potential F1 future of Herter. When Gasly announced that he was leaving AlphaTauri for Alpine, Red Bull tried to sign Herter under curved circumstances because he didn't have the super license at that time to compete in the sport, which shows that the interest for the American driver is extremely high. All he needs to do is continue with the upward performance and prove to everyone that he has what it takes to be the leader of this team, whether he would have Ricciardo or Ward next to him. There are other surprise choices, of course, that we can never say no to, such as Franco Colapinto, because of his strong performance in 2024 that has been overshadowed a bit with the latest crashes, but nevertheless the Argentinian driver has shown that he can deliver strong results, and with competitive racing cars he would definitely be one of the top candidates to be put in one of the driver's seats. With all this in mind, do you think that Cadillac will bring any value to the sport? And if so, do you think that the only reason they were let in was the engine backup from General Motors? Let us know in the comments below, and if you're interested in the latest big news on Norris and Hamilton, make sure to check out the video that's appearing on your screen right now.